Memories of the very first Saturday night's main event.
Oh, jeez, man. Paul Orndorff, I think, was on the fit. You know, you got a guy who's got to put his hand up when it's his fault. So I just keep my hand up the rest of this interview. That particular, there was a Saturday night main event where I whipped Mr. T. This is just the way it came down. 3 days before it was in Phoenix. 3 days before it, we'd been going really hard on the road. And one of my brothers I was taking water-based testosterone. And he was the administrator. Bottom line, between the whole bunch, I don't think I got a lot of sleep for about 3 days. And I came into this big room, and there were people I'd never seen. Some looked like boxing representatives, some different. And I was just plain ass ignorant, egotistical, big-headed, everything else you'd like to throw in, all of yous that like to throw. And, you know, I said, just stop the room. I said, how are you going to get some heat on him? I said, I'm just going to whip the I'll take my belt off. And everyone just kind of stopped. This is Saturday night's main event. I think this is the very first main event. And so when I got on the air, I was whipping them with my belt, and then I got them in a lot of trouble here. And so I was doing an interview about Mr. T, and they asked me about Mr. T, and I said, well, you go figure this. You know, I figured that slavery was a terrible thing, and I was so happy it was abolished, and Abraham Lincoln and all the history you have, and as soon as they make the slaves free, what does Mr. T do? Put chains around his neck. You know, I just can't bear, holy cow, here come NBC, and so that was like, and then that same evening when I was completely my fault, George Scott was there, and Vince and Jim Troy, and I was doing whatever I was doing, and George Scott tried to hook my mouth, and I bit his finger, walked him around the lobby, and then there were McMahon and Scott, and they were in this elevator. I could see it, Kevin Dunn, I think, and I had my halberd here, whatever my purpose was, and I wouldn't let him go up, and one finally, I think it was Kevin Dunn, grabbed my halberd and put it in the elevator on the other side, and they whipped him and got up and got away from me.
Huh.
And that was the first one that I think, my fault. But when WrestleMania 2 was going on, I was in Nassau, the second round. What they did to me was, I went to a camp with Lou Duva. I'll try to stay on track for you here. All right, this is the answer to this question. With Lou Duva, and I was 5 weeks in coming out, and I wouldn't take a dive for T in WrestleMania 2.
Right.
It was boxing. What they did was they took my hands, and then they wrapped my hands up, then they put them in the glove. So there was nothing I could do. And it was one of the worst matches, one of my most embarrassing matches. And again, you've got T and Piper in Nassau, and the satellite, and then all of a sudden in the second round in Nassau, T and Piper first in the card. Second round, the whole Coliseum just starts chanting my name. And I remember it coming from the back. I'm not sure, second, maybe third round. And all of a sudden, everybody's chanting my name. And I can remember I was trying to get T to do something out of text because I figured I could, do something. I flung the stool at him as hard as I could as my last chance. He didn't. So it was a terrible boxing match from one aspect. But what that did, and with the animosity with WrestleMania, who started and who didn't, Hogan went to McMahon and said, hey, I'll just write on his kilts. Nobody expected me to come out a babyface. And it just went all over. And all of a sudden, Hogan had a rival, and Hogan said, I'll just ride in his kilts. McMahon said to him, no, I'll take care of him. And I got the jungle beat. Oh, wait a second, guys, man. I give you my guts and wore to settle the score. I said I wouldn't take a dive, but it surely didn't hurt the gate. I went again. It was WrestleMania 1 with some real stringent rules why I should not from Mr. T, and it didn't hurt the gate. And now I'm at WrestleMania 2, and you got the Chicago Bears, and the gate still ain't hurting. What's the problem? And on the WrestleMania 3, I told McMahon I'm not doing the pit anymore. And he was mad at that also. and I broke it down. And so on the card, you'll see a very small, and Roddy Piper's retirement match. If you listen to the people when we went to the arena, you'll know yourself. And that's when Hogan and McMahon figured that they just put that stamp out. Once it's on paper, everybody believes it, that, you know, they're the reason for this big thing. And it did used to bother me for a long time until my ego, until you know, a couple of real things that happened to me, and I realized how insignificant it really was. And I think that people know the truth. The truth is that it took everyone.
Can you talk about the 2 workouts you had with Mr. T prior to the WrestleMania match? Is that?
I remember one time getting in the ring with him. There was George Scott, Vince McMahon. It was a warehouse, and it was for the boxing match. And I'd said, I'm not going to take a dive with this guy. I didn't like the guy. And so we were in the ring and boxing. I remember, boom, and he just came. His head was here, just kind of toying. And I looked over at McMahon, and McMahon kind of smiling. Yeah, you can handle him. And that was about it. I remember that one. And I remember McMahon saying after the match, "Why didn't you take him out?" Why didn't you tell me? I would love to. So he really piled that one because he knew that I had hurt myself, and Vince is good at piling that one deep, and he was going to get rid of me or tone down my value. So bring you up to WrestleMania 3. By that time, they figured I was gone, and yeah, they started the whole 9 yards. But that was just a ploy of mine. That was the first time I retired.
I have some questions actually leading up to that.
Sure.
Before WrestleMania 3. I guess you walked out for like 7 weeks in the middle of your hot run to renegotiate your contract, I believe. It was after the Mr. T thing.
No, sir.
Okay.